This is a big deal. This is the idea that we're victims, that everything is bad, is one of the reasons socialism is gaining ground. But there's another, and this is an important one, and it has to do with both the right and the left. We went through a major economic crisis in 2008. This was a big crash, and our leaders failed us on every single side. First of all, the origins of the crash came on the left. There was a narrative sold that banks were not making home loans to black people. There were big articles about it, big studies about it. It was untrue. It was untrue. Banks were not making loans to people who couldn't pay them back. And of course, in areas where the poverty was mostly among black people, that was going to affect black people, but it was never racist. The numbers proved that it wasn't racist. But they used that. They put the big narrative push to make sure that banks were demonized. And then they said to banks, you better start making those loans or we're coming after you for racism. So banks started loaning to people who couldn't pay the loans back. And they started selling loans to people, telling them not to worry about it. They couldn't pay it back. At the same time, Barney Frank and Chris Dodd in the House and in the Senate started pushing this Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, these two essentially government institutions that were going to back up these loans. So all these loans were apparently backed up. Wall Street is now stuck, right? Because that's where the loans go. Wall Street is now stuck with all these bad loans. What are they going to do? Wall Street starts to bundle the loans so that all that bad money spreads out through the economy. And when people, big surprise, when people can't pay back their loans, the economy collapsed. I mean, it just fell in. It was hollowed out by leftist theory and by reckless Wall Street. Now, Adam McKay, who just made that movie Vice, he makes the movie based on the book. I read the book as well, called The Big Short, blaming everything on Wall Street. Everything was Wall Street's fault. It wasn't. It was Barney Frank. George W. Bush warned Barney Frank about Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac again and again and again. But he had spent all his political capital on the wars of the war against terror, so he couldn't do anything about it. And Barney Frank said, I am willing to roll the dice. He rolled the dice. He crapped out, and we all crapped out with him. Who wrote the reform bill? Barney Frank and Chris Dodd, both of them, the guys who basically started the crisis themselves. They wrote the reform bill. So that's the Dodd-Frank bill. Barack Obama, did he convict anybody? Did he send anybody to prison for what they did on Wall Street? Was anybody? No, they bailed all those companies out, so many of those companies out, which meant that these Wall Street guys, these capitalist guys, these guys that Republicans, we conservatives have been carrying water for, saying, no, it's not bad to be rich. It's not bad to be CEO because they're taking all the risks, see? And so they should get all the rewards. When they took the risk and they lost, it was like, we want the government money. Just the same as some college kid saying, I want the government to pay for my education. Exactly the same. We're too big to fail. Think of the children. It was exactly the same thing. The capitalists, the so-called capitalists, were exactly the same as the Occupy Wall Street people who were crying out that everything should be paid for and the corporations were evil. They all became the same people, both the right, both the capitalists and the socialists failed. And both Obama didn't prosecute anybody for this. Maybe one guy went to jail. I can't remember. But basically, there was no cleanup. There was no reform. He did nothing. He didn't go after Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. He did nothing. And Bush was helpless to stop it. So, I mean, it was a major failure. And that makes capitalism look bad. It's not really capitalism. It's crony capitalism, which is just one step from socialism. It has the word capitalism in the title, but it's almost exactly the same as socialism. It's socialism by power, by who you know, instead of what risks you take and whether you win or lose. In capitalism, if you make a mistake, if you take a bad risk, you eat it. You're the one who goes down. And that is not what happened. We did. The taxpayer paid for all those guys. All those things that Frank and Dodd and Wall Street did wrong, you and I paid for by bailing it out. And that was a major failure. And that's why a lot of these kids think socialism sounds good to them,